Hi, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining our regular monthly OneClickFactory webinar that is dedicated for our service of self-provisioning for NAV Business Central on Azure. So today it's me, Rimvydas. I'm the Cloud Business Line Manager at 1ClickFactory. And as usual, I have my best expert, Giedrius Kakanauskas, and we will be sharing, as usual, some monthly news with you. So let me change the slide. So as usual, we have these webinars on second Wednesday of each month. So the next webinar will be in December, the last webinar of this calendar year. So December 9th, mark your calendars. As usual, will be the next webinar. You can register to the next month's webinar right after today's webinar. So we will definitely welcome you on the next month's webinar as well. But today, as usual, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So there's this chat box on your webinar, on the GoToWebinar window. So please don't hesitate asking questions over there. Please ask them anytime. We will pick up questions probably at the end of the webinar, where we will have the Q&A session, but you can post the questions at any time and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so what's in today's agenda? As usual, we have what's new section, what's in the lab, basically what are the things that we are developing or we plan to develop, and then as usual, pretty important and longer section of frequently asked questions. So what's new? So the biggest news for the last month's release is the possibility to provision Business Central 17th or Business Central 2020 release wave 2 versions on our self-provisioning portal. So this version has been released by Microsoft in October, and we prepared it, and it is already available to provision already for a couple of weeks in our self-provisioning portal. So for those who were searching for that, I hope you already found that it's already available. For those who haven't, well, just please know that it is already available to provision. I'll talk about the Business Central 17th version a little bit more on the next slide. So other new things that we have been doing, we've been doing some platform stability improvements. Maybe that is not represented in the features that you would see on the portal, but there are some very important things that we have improved on the back end of our portal. So hope you will experience some more smooth user experience while using our portal. And as well, we have just received the latest BC and NAV cumulative updates. So they are now being tested, and once they pass our internal rigorous test procedures, they will be released for you to use in your installation. So bear with us. It's being tested. We don't want to release something that is not properly tested. So we'd rather wait a day or two before releasing it, that it's finally tested and approved by our quality assurance team. All right, so about the BC 17th or BC 2020 Wave 2, there are some things that have been improved by Microsoft in the newest release. First and foremost, probably the performance optimization improvements. There are interesting improvements in monitoring, control, and storage features, some telemetry improvements, and definitely some application enhancements. So today we will not go deeper into BC 17th improvements, but I really would like all of you to invite to tomorrow's webinar. So 1ClickFactory will be hosting the dedicated webinar for BC 17 What's New webinar. So that would be tomorrow on November 12th. you can go to 1ClickFactory.com website and register to this webinar, and it will be pretty much 1 hour of what's new overview on what is new in the BC17s. So again, it's on Thursday, November 12th. That would be on 4 p.m. Eastern European time. For those who are in different time zones, you may calculate the time zone wherever you are. So basically, for those who are on Central European time zone, that would be one hour earlier. So, but please go to 1ClickFactory.com website. It's on the front page. So please go there and register for tomorrow to get more news about BC17, what is actually being done by Microsoft, what are the improvements that are released with this release. So I will not go much deeper on BC17 features in today's webinar. So with that, I pass the mic to my colleague Giedrius, and Giedrius will go through what's basically in the lab, what are we doing for the future releases, and then continue with the FAQ section. I also see that our assistant has pasted the GoToWebinar link to register for tomorrow's webinar in the chat box. So if you don't want to go to 1ClickFactory.com and click afterwards to register to webinar, you can click on the registration link already in the chat box. So just a side notion. And with that, I pass mic to Giedrius.
Thanks for doing this. Yeah, hello everyone. So yeah, today I'll cover what's in the lab and some frequently asked questions. So first of all, what are we working on? What are our thoughts? So first of all, yeah, we have on our minds to have Kronos databases for multi-tenant environments. I believe all of you know that there is a possibility to use Kronos databases for single-tenant environments. Basically, you can spin up a single-tenant environment with a Kronos database by simply just choosing localization, or you can even restore a Kronos database on top of the running installation, on top of the running database. But we don't have that for multi-tenant environments. And from our side, we are running into some issues because of that. And also we have seen some partners needing, let's say, those kind of databases. Therefore, yeah, we will be working on implementing that. We will work definitely on improving the monitoring tools and monitoring data that we are providing. There are some good suggestions actually in the suggested ideas section. If you are interested in those, please vote for them. I really like some of them actually. Yeah. Also, we will be working on single-tenant upgrade improvements. Basically, what we want to do is to implement the compatibility matrix. For the moment, if we would be doing, let's say, an incompatible upgrade from, let's say, from one version to another, the upgrade would simply fail. In the future, we hope to just block that action on basically from the start, so that you would not have to wait for the failure to occur. And of course, security improvements are actually top priority for us. Yeah, we are constantly working on improving the security. And as Marius has mentioned during the last webinar, we have some things in our backlog for that. As always, don't forget to vote for the ideas that you and your colleagues have suggested on the portal, and don't forget to suggest new ideas if you think that there is something that would be extremely beneficial to you and to the other partners. So please suggest those ideas. It's always interesting to hear what's on your mind. Good. And then let's move on to some frequently asked questions. And the first one is about the possibility to use SFTP on our platform. So first of all, maybe I would like to explain that SFTP is FTP over SSH. Let's call it like that. Yeah, so that's a completely separate protocol from FTP. But FTPS is the one that we are using with customer share and partner share. It's basically the normal FTP protocol just over the TLS, so basically over an encrypted channel, right? So it's an additional layer. So the customer share and the partner share that we are providing, it is using FTPS. Or sometimes it's called FTP over TLS. Actually, it's more called over FTP over TLS than FTPS, right? And yeah, it's more common in the world, and therefore we have chosen it. And we will not change it on the customer share and partner share because there are hundreds of customers who are already using that. Maybe some people have even developed some libraries to use that functionality. So we will not be changing that. But if you need it and it's not possible to do anything with FTPS, then you can just order a blank server and install your SFTP software on that blank server. The blank servers are backed up, so the files that you would be having on that server would be backed up. And yeah, well, basically just install your SFTP on the blank server. That's it. You could try to install it on the let's say NAV or business central application servers, but we would not recommend that because yeah, there is a possibility to lose some files. So a blank server is a recommended option. If you need some assistance with that, just contact service at 1ClickFactory.com and yeah, we will try to help you. Good. Another question. So yeah, more and more of these are, as we get more and more customers, we are getting more and more of these questions. So yeah, let's say somebody has, let's say, destroyed some data or corrupted some data. So is there a possibility to restore database to some previous point in time? So yes, we are doing the system backups, as we call them, and we are keeping those for 14 days. We can just restore the database, but the usual procedure that we are doing is actually we are providing you with a backup instead of restoring on top of your database, because yeah, well, usually partners want to just see some data, not to overwrite the whole database, right? So the standard procedure is to provide you with the backup. If you need to restore it on top of your own database, you can easily do that on the portal, right? So you can just choose the backup and restore it on top of your own database. The service is payable, and let's say to get the backup, you should send request to service@1ClickFactory.com. You should of course indicate for which customer or for which installation you need the backup and for which exactly time, including time zone. Yeah, so good, clear with that. Yeah, another one, we have actually talked about this for a couple of webinars, I believe already. But once again, if you are seeing a lot of failed authentication requests for users like admin, administrator, maybe analogs in some other languages, what you should do is, well, basically, first of all, yeah, it is because of the RDP port scanning. It became very popular during pandemic. As my colleague Marius has mentioned during the last webinar, we are actually removing those users, so there isn't a lot of security threat, but still it's consuming CPU resources, and therefore we strongly recommend to set IP filters for the remote desktop port. And then also I would recommend to check the last month's webinar where yeah, our colleague was talking about these and other security threats. Yeah, but the first remedy is to set the IP filter for your remote desktop port. How to do that? Maybe I will quickly switch to my internet browser. So to set IP filter, you should just go to application servers. Select the application server that is interesting for you. Let's say this is the one that I have just spun up. So yeah, gear icon, show endpoint. And as you can see, I don't have any IP filter for my remote desktop port. So I should enter something here. Yeah, I don't know my IP address for the moment, but let's say, yeah, something like this. Not sure if it's valid IP address, but yeah, just save it, and that's basically it. Good. Let's move on to the next question. Sometimes partners need to check, let's say, connectivity to the Azure VMs, or check maybe latency between the client computer and the application server. So yeah, and the ping is not working, right? So why it is not working? ICMP is by default disabled on Azure. Microsoft decided to do so for security reasons, and therefore, yeah, there are some recommended ways for doing TCP ping instead of ICMP ping. Basically, what we use in our daily work, let's say, we use PS ping to test both the latency and the ping, basically the TCP ping. So what you would need to do for this thing, you would need to, and actually it would be for other softwares most probably as well. So you would need to create an endpoint for a specific port, let's say, on which you are planning to do the ping. Then you should start the receiver or the server on the Azure virtual machine, on the virtual machine that you provision on our platform. And then from the client computer, you should run the same PS ping, only with the, let's say, with client parameters. And that's it. And then you can both check the connectivity and check the latency. And actually, it's the same way if you want to check connectivity from the Azure server, from the server on our platform to client's network. So yeah, you just need to reverse everything. You need to create some firewall rules on the client's network. You need to start a server on client's network, and then run the client on the testing client on the virtual machine. There are some alternatives. Microsoft usually recommends to use latte.exe, and also if you just need to test some TCP port connectivity, you can use PowerShell commandlet test net connection. It has an alias TNC, although Microsoft doesn't recommend to use aliases anymore. But yeah, for me it's easier to just use TNC and quickly test the TCP connectivity between two machines. Good. Another question is whether it is possible to upgrade single tenant installations to PC 17 from any previous PC version, or maybe even NAV version. So yeah, as we have announced, the single tenant upgrades are available for AL only versions, meaning that's Business Central 15 and higher. Yes, but also there are some restrictions, as I mentioned in what's in the lab section. There is an upgrade matrix. Basically, there is compatibility, upgrade compatibility. And I'll try to open the link, or maybe I'll just search for opening. Hopefully it will open now. Yeah, so there is an upgrade matrix from which CU basically you can upgrade to which CU. For example, if you want to upgrade from CU 8 of Business Central 15, you can upgrade to Business Central 16 CU 4. Yeah, and yeah, well, basically this is the matrix, and this is what we are planning to implement in the future, so that there's limitation immediately on the portal, and you would have to wait for the upgrade to fail. But yeah, basically you should be aware that not every, let's say, cumulative update is compatible with the cumulative update from a higher major version. Good. Let's move on to another question. And the other question was whether it's possible to use chat analytics on our platform and what is needed to do that. So from what we see, there are two options. Basically, Chat Analytics is a new name for Chat Enterprise from X Chat Enterprise, right? So with Chat Analytics, you can use Azure Analytics service to store your tabular data. So if that is something that you would be interested in, then you might require an additional blank server for Chat Data Manager. Basically, that's it. We would recommend to contact Chat directly and ask them how to set up Chat Analytics with Azure Analytics. There is no need to order Azure Analytics through us, basically, because you can just order it directly from Azure. Another option, which is more common, most probably, I would say, is using private SQL server. So you can order a private SQL server to store your data warehouse, basically. Yeah. So and then you can set up a Chat Data Manager to transfer data from your NAV or Business Central database to your data warehouse on a private SQL server. Good. Yeah. Also, pretty common. Sometimes partners make mistakes. Sometimes they change their decisions, or even customers change their decisions, and they want to change the server type. So the question is whether it is possible. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. Right. So let's try to discuss some scenarios here. First of all, from private share to dedicated. It is possible. We can do that for you, but there should be only one installation, only one customer installation on the private share server, and of course it has to be single tenant installation, because we don't support multi-tenant installations on dedicated servers. So yeah, if that is the case, then it is possible to upgrade dedicated or to change the private share server to a dedicated server. From the other side, if it's a dedicated server, then yes, it is possible to move to private shared server, but there might be need to change server size, which means that there might be some, let's say, some downtime. Good. Then, let's say, moving from sandbox to private shared, our dedicated server. This one is trickier. We would need to add one VM basically to the application server. So yeah, and we would be adding only, I call it empty VM, meaning that no additional setup. If you have done some additional setup, like if you have added some DLLs or something like that to your service configuration, it would not be transferred to the new VM. So you would basically need to do the setup once again. Yes, on the second machine that we would be adding. And we would be adding only the default instances or the instances that we provision for the service. So if you have some custom instances, which those to be configured on the second machine, you would have to do that yourself. So yeah, basically it's possible, but there's quite some configuration needed. Moving from dedicated or private share to sandbox, well, actually our recommendation would be to just remove the old server and set up the new server. It would probably that would be the easiest, because otherwise a lot of reconfiguration has to be done. Yeah, and all of this is not available on the portal, but yeah, you can send request to service@1ClickFactory.com and we will see what we can do for you. Good. And that's basically it from the questions and answers, from the FAQs. And yeah, we are in Q&A section, I believe now. don't have any questions yet.
So while we are still waiting for your questions, there's one feature that we have implemented in this webinar, in today's webinar. So before leaving, or when you will try to leave this webinar at the end of the webinar, hopefully, you will be asked to fill in some survey about this webinar. So we would really appreciate your feedback, your opinion, while answering this survey as well. But for now, I think we have a question, Giedrius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a good one. So yeah, the question is whether we consider RTM to be a good version of PC to start and to use for production environments for customers, and if not, which cumulative update should be stable enough. Well, yeah. Usually RTM versions aren't perfect, right? So we can see even in cumulative update 1 of Business Central 17, there are a lot of fixes. Yeah, so we ourselves usually consider that without cumulative update 4, the system might run into some issues, and even if you start on that cumulative update, let's say on cumulative update 2 or 3, you should consider updating it or upgrading it as soon as possible, because most probably there will be some issues, some major issues in those cumulative updates. And with each version, yeah, with each NAV and Business Central version, we are running into some issues in cumulative updates, up to even in cumulative update 6 sometimes. So yeah, in general, if you are planning to use RTM for production environment, please yeah, plan to upgrade in the future.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
I don't see anything.
I don't see. Yeah, guys, so that doesn't mean that you cannot ask questions in offline for us. So as usual, if you have a question, just drop an email to us at service@oneclickfactory.com, and we'll do our best to answer you as soon as possible. So I would thank you for today's participation. Once again, a reminder that the next webinar will be on December 9th. So you can go and register for the next webinar already now. I also would like to remind you about tomorrow's webinar from our colleagues in OneClickFactory about the BC 17th news. So please register to this one as well to learn more about BC 17th. And with that, probably I would like to close today's webinar. Once again, thank you for participating. Yeah, and we'll see you next month then. Thank you and bye.